I'd like to welcome everybody back. We are here with Alabama State Treasurer Young Boozer and Mrs. Anita Kelley. And I don't have an official title there.
I am the Savings Division Director.
The Savings Division Director. We're going to be talking more about the Enable Savings Plan today. So I'd like to just hand it over and allow you to introduce yourselves at this point.
Okay, I'm Young Boozer. I'm Alabama State Treasurer. A lot of people say, you know, that's great, but what the heck does a state treasurer do? And so let me give your viewers a little bit of background as to what happens in the treasurer's office. For the most part, I'm the banker for the state. So the state of Alabama receives over $100 million a day in revenues, taxes, and other receipts. We invest that money. We invest on a regular basis $3.5, maybe $4 billion on a short to moderate term basis. That's the core of what we do, but we also have other functions that we perform for the state, and that has accrued over time. The basic function is handle the cash, but we also handle bonds. When the state of Alabama issues bonds, we have a division that records all of that, and then they make the payments on the principal and interest on a periodic basis according to the contracts. So that's bond management. That's about a $5.5 billion operation. We also are responsible for the SAFE program, which guarantees public deposits from loss if there's a default by a bank. And I'm working my way towards Anita. Yeah. And we're also responsible for the Alabama Trust Fund, which is the $3.5 billion trust fund that we help manage. And it is invested so that the monies that come out of that go into the general fund, to the cities and the counties, Forever Wild, and also the senior services. One of the things that we do also is unclaimed property, and that's an amazing function. It's the most fun job that I have in that we love reuniting people with their own money.
That's always good. I love that.
No, that's right. And look, everybody smiles when we do it. We give them the check, I'm happy. This is great. And here's some amazing numbers on that. Unclaimed property. The state of Alabama currently has over $800 million in unclaimed property.
Now, what exactly is unclaimed property?
So somebody has a bank account, and it's got $100 in it, and let's say they're in school, and they're in school at Auburn, and they have the account, and they graduate and they get a job in Huntsville. Well, they move to Huntsville and they change their address, they start their job, and they forget about that account.
Yeah, I think I've done that a few times where it's, a couple bucks, or even like gift cards where you have like $2 on a gift card.
And that's another way that this can happen. So what happens is that after 3 years, if that bank has lost contact with that person, that is, they get a return statement, or they've had no transactions with them, they're required to turn that money over to the state of Alabama. So bank accounts, security deposits, checks that weren't cashed, dividend payments, those kinds of things. It all comes to us. We keep those records forever. You can claim it for the rest of eternity, or either you or a rightful heir can get it. It's over $800 million, but it's $7.5 million individual claims. So if you do the math, it's a little bit over $100 on average. So there's some that are a nickel, and there's some that are 5,000. And our job is to try to get that money back to people. So we do that on an annual basis. We get cash in, we put cash out. And of course, when we get money to those folks, they're happy about it.
Yeah. Keeping money here in the state.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So that's one of the other functions. And so now I've worked my way to the last one, right? And the last one is we have a savings group. And I say that generally because there are really three functions that group has that Anita is the director for. The first one is the PAC program, which is a prepaid affordable tuition program that she's responsible for. We also have a college savings plan. It's called College Counts 529, and it is the best way to save for college for a child or grandchild, period, end of sentence. And the reason for that is that the program's been in place, at least for the state of Alabama, since 2002. It predates that in a couple of other states back into the 1990s. So the program has been around for 20 or 30 years. Why is it so good? It's because it is established by the IRS Code Section 529. And that allows the states and to offer these programs, and it allows people who invest in these programs a tremendous tax advantage. So here's how it works for the state of Alabama. If you are an Alabama resident and you are saving for someone's education, you can open an account, you can make a contribution into that account and get a tax deduction on your Alabama taxes. And so it's up to $5,000 if you're filing singly, up to $10,000 if you are filing jointly. So the money goes in on a tax advantage basis. Let's just say that you open it the moment your child was born. So now what's happening is on day 0, you begin to make investments and it begins to grow. All of that growth is tax deferred. There's a tax advantage for that. And then when your child becomes 18 and is going to college and you are going to use those funds for his or her education, if you withdraw that money for qualified education expenses, it's tax-free.
Really?
So it is the best vehicle, investment-wise, tax-wise, and structure-wise that you can invest in. The interesting thing to me is that there's studies been done, and it says there are people who are saving for college, and they're saving in all types of vehicles. Only 25% of the people who are saving in some manner use a 529 account, which I think is totally insane. Everybody ought to be using this thing because of the advantages that it has. So we are obviously always trying to get the word out, and we are trying to increase the awareness out there. And we have a great program in the state of Alabama. We are responsible for it. Union Bank and Trust out of Nebraska is the administrator for it. We've had great success over the last 8 years since I've been here. It has grown from about $750 million in assets under management to $1.75 billion. So we're up $1 billion in the last 8 years. And if you look at Alabama accounts, what you're really proud of is that they've grown from 14,000 to 52,000. It's grown from $113 million to about $941 million. If you do the math on that, the Alabama accounts have grown on an average annual rate of 30%.
Yeah.
And that's contributions and earnings and growth. That makes a big difference when you're trying to send a child to college. It may not pay the full tab, but it'll certainly reduce the tab that you might have otherwise if you're looking at student loans and other ways of financing it. So, and the reason I give you that really long background of this thing is because what we're about to talk about, the ABLE accounts, it's connected to 529. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're aware of this, is that if we go back in time, to December of 2014, Congress passed the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. And that established savings accounts for people with disabilities. And it is IRS Code Section 529A.
It's the same one.
529A.
Okay.
So it separates them, but they're quite a bit alike.
Yeah.
And so that's the genesis of what we're about to talk about today.
And the bank in Nebraska is still the same bank overseeing the Enable Fund as well, is that correct?
Oh, no, it's a different bank. Yeah.
It's still in Nebraska?
It's still in Nebraska.
Oh, they're like across the street from each other?
No, actually, one's in Lincoln and the other one's in Omaha.
Okay.
Yeah. They know each other well. Yes. Yeah, and they're both fantastic administrators and great managers of the program. We're incredibly pleased and satisfied with the work that they've done.
Now, aside from the tax advantages that the college savings and the Enable account provide, what was another reason that the Enable savings plan was enacted? I've heard some people in the community were trying to save money that have a developmental disability, but they had some worries there that they might lose some benefits.
Yes.
So how did is that the thinking process behind the Enable savings plan?
That's the driver for the plan.
Okay.
The community has been working on this for years. So when you talk about SSI, SSDI, right? Members of that community are highly dependent upon that for their existence, their actual existence, right? It's incredible financial support. Well, up until this, they were limited as to what other resources they could have. And that limit was $2,000. My understanding is that that $2,000 number was established back in the 1970s. Well, I want to tell you, I've lived through the 70s and all the way up to today, and there have been some amazing bouts of inflation over that time period, and that $2,000 today is not much.
It's not as much as it used to be back in
Not
the
at all, not at all. So, and clearly, they were losing ground all the time, and the community has been trying to get this change for a long time. Maybe decades, huh? So, let's go back to December of 2014. And at the very end of the calendar year, Congress got together and said, and finally they had a breakthrough. The community finally got the breakthrough they've been looking for years, and the law was passed. And the key element, there are a lot of great things, and we're going to talk about it, right? Because Anita is hands-on, she knows all the details about this, but the big detail in December of 14 was, we are going to do better than the 2,000. So this basically sets up a great type of savings account, but what it allows people to do is to save up to $100,000 without impacting those payments that they are getting, the resource-based payments. And that's a huge difference. And we're going to speak to somebody, I think, a little bit later on, who is a great example of how it impacts someone's life, how it impacted her life and allowed her to do something that she needed to do badly. And she was able to accomplish it because of this new law.
So just to kind of summarize for anybody watching, before this plan, if you were receiving benefits such as Social Security, Medicaid waivers, stuff like that, you could only have assets in a checking account of $2,000 or less. If it got over $2,000, then the state or the federal government would say, hey, you've got enough money in there, you need to start paying for some of these services on your own, so we're going to reduce those benefits that we give to you. And this new plan says and acknowledges that $2,000 isn't enough to live on today for most people with developmental disabilities, and they need more funds in there to be able to take care of their everyday living. And this plan in 2014 allows you to go from $2,000 in that savings account up to $100,000 in that savings account without losing any benefits that you're currently receiving. Now
that is correct. That is correct.
And that's only monetary, so you cannot put like a trust fund, you can't put any real estate into this account, or it has to be strictly cash.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who exactly is an Enable Savings Plan for? If you had to say this is an ideal candidate, who would that be?
You want to go with that? Sure.
I will. And just to start that off, it doesn't have to be someone that just has a developmental disability. So it could be someone that has a physical disability as well. So there's two things that determine whether you are an Enable Savings Plan eligible participant. So the first thing is you have to be receiving SSDI or SSI benefits that say that you are disabled or that you are blind, okay? And you have to have experienced that before age 26. Okay. So that is a key determiner, before age 26. The second is if you're not receiving those benefits, then you have to have a doctor's certification stating that you're experiencing the disability or you're blind, and it is giving you marked, your disability is marked enough that it is going to, what are the words? I'm sorry.
It's almost like maybe you're on the waiting list. Maybe you're not receiving those services yet, but there are things that are going on that are affecting your daily life, and a doctor's note will provide that? Correct.
Or it could be that you're disabled enough that it could result in death in the next 12 months, but you're not choosing to receive the benefits.
Oh,
okay?
That's a good point.
Or it is just marked enough that you are disabled and just not choosing to receive the benefits. So.
And is it anybody at any age can open an account?
Yeah, so you could be 95 and have a disability, but you have to have experienced it before age 26.
Okay, so that does put a lower end then. What's the youngest account that someone could open? I mean, if they were
Well,
classified,
I would imagine you could have a birth defect.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that would be significant,
Yeah.
and you would be eligible to open very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so very similar to the college savings then in that aspect. If you were to save for your son or daughter's college, it would be the same thing
Yeah.
with the Enable Savings Plan.
Yes.
Yeah, and for example, our youngest account owner for the Enable Savings Plan in Alabama is 1.
Yeah.
So she or he is 1, and our oldest is 78. So that shows you, the full gamut.
The wide range there. I wanted to kind of take a step back. You spoke briefly about the tax advantages. So just plain language. Let's say someone is making $30,000 a year and they owe $5,000 in taxes at the end of the year. They're able to put that $5,000 into the Enable Savings Plan.
Okay, let's back up. Okay,
Yeah.
so ABLE is different in the way it's handled from a tax point of view than the college count program.
Gotcha.
Okay. The college savings program allows you a tax deduction when you make a contribution.
Okay.
ABLE does not.
Okay.
So there is no upfront tax advantage for contributions made into the Enable Alabama account.
Okay.
That is the primary difference between the two. Now, let's continue on with the ABLE account. The ABLE account, you make a contribution into the account. Earnings on that contribution are tax deferred, so you're not paying tax on that.
Okay.
And then if you withdraw money for qualified disability expenses, that is also tax-free. So that is how it is similar to the other program.
So an expense like that could be if you needed a new wheelchair and insurance wasn't going to pay for that. If you pulled that out of the Enable Savings Plan, that money wouldn't be taxed and you could purchase that wheelchair.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And the list for qualified disability expenses is quite extensive, actually. It's housing, it's education, it's health-related, it's financial management, it's end-of-life experiences, and actually the last bullet point that the IRS has defined is anything that enhances the account owner's life. So it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
they're giving that wide berth there to really be creative and see, because it's tough to say these are the only things that will reimburse or allow to be tax exempt there. So
Everybody's situation is unique.
Right.
Their needs are unique, and we have discovered when you try to write something, a law like this, you can't catch everything, and it doesn't encompass everything. So they've made it very broad. The other thing too that I'd like to point out as we're talking about this is that everybody's needs are different, so that the plan can be the plan is structured so that it can accommodate the variances in what your needs are. For example, you have somebody who opens an account and they need to put money in as a contribution, but they have current expenses. So they need to withdraw on a regular basis and probably over the short term. The way that the account is structured is that there is a bank option, and there's also a checking account option, so that if I have current expenses, I can put money in and I can take it right out. Now, that's a lot different than the college savings program, because in college you say I put it in now and I only take it out 18 years from now. So you have different investment options. You could also have another situation where you have long-term needs, not just short-term needs. And for example, let's say that a family has a child with Down syndrome, and they are fully capable of taking care of their child today, but they think, wait a minute, my wife and I are not going to be here forever. And so what we need to do is we need to begin to build resources for our child so that when we're gone, they will have resources and they will have some security. So there is an option to purchase stocks and bonds through this program so that you are looking for the long term. So it becomes more like the college savings program in that what I'm going to do is I'm going to make contributions on a regular basis, and then over time that will grow, and sometime in the future, hopefully a long time in the future, the account will be available and will have grown to a large amount. So
now at that time in that example, what happens? Who oversees that account? Would that be someone appointed by the guardian or a guardian themselves?
Well, it could be the parent, it could be the individual, depending upon their capacities. It could be a conservator and a guardian now. We've, in this, can I jump in on this little part right here? When we set this account up several years ago, we structured it and had it passed into state law. And shortly thereafter, a number of people came to us and they said, you know, all of this is great, but there's an issue in that there's some other state statutes that are limiting and preventing guardians from actually opening these accounts for their client. And we need to change the law in order to be able to allow guardians to open these accounts. So last legislative session, we presented a bill that is now a law that says that guardians can open up ABLE accounts for their individuals.
Yeah.
And so that's now in play. And that actually is, we believe, has helped us open up some new accounts because that restriction was keeping people from opening new accounts.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a roadblock there if you're
It
trying
was.
to open it up for the whole community.
Yeah, and it was totally unintentional, but luckily, people in the community brought it to our attention, which is also one of the reasons that we're doing this broadcast today is because we want to get the word out. Mm-hmm. And if there are other issues like this, we want to know about them, so if we need to take action, we can do that.
That's right.
Yeah, I applaud you for that. I don't think that happens very often. So being with your ear to the community and being able to adapt there, really, thank you.
You're welcome.
So who can contribute, or what do you see? So you have your personal checking and then you have your funds where you can invest. Proportional wise, would you say that 50% is checking by an individual and 50% is investment by people in their family? Or how does that look for the Enable Savings Plan? Or am I making sense?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you're making sense. We don't really know who is contributing to the accounts. I will tell you that 40% of all the assets are actually in our, Treasurer Boozer just spoke to how you could invest the money. So within the stocks and bonds, we have a conservative, a moderate, and a growth mutual fund. Okay, so the growth is going to be the more aggressive. 40% of all the assets are in the growth, the more aggressive. So people are putting the money in there and saving long term.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells me that that might be the custodian or the guardian or the parent of the person trying to save long term.
And it also depends on the disability of the individual, right? So if I need something, as I said earlier, if I need cash today, I can't go long.
Right.
But if I am, if everything is okay and everything's running well, and I need to save for the future, that's what people are doing.
Right.
So we're actually seeing what we expected to see.
Right.
And that would, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say the second option is going to be the checking, which is going to be the short term. So, yeah, it's either going to be we need money now and we want to be able to, have our $2,000 in our checking account outside the ABLE account, and we want to be able to put excess funds in here and use it as we need it, or we're saving long term.
Now, for a checking account, would that be, if I was receiving Social Security, I could put that in the checking account every month, I could direct deposit that, and I could write checks out of that checking account, and my parents, or if I'm making extra money, I can then invest in the fund portion of the Enable Savings account.
Correct.
So that would be picture perfect there. Is if I was working, I was receiving some benefits, I would put that into the checking account, make sure I had 3 months operating expenses, living expenses, and then once I have that cushion, I would take the rest of that and I would invest it in the fund. And that would be, hopefully that's what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. We went over the assets. What happens if I have an Enable Savings Plan and I've been having my Social Security going to my checking, and people that know me and me have been investing in the fund? What happens if I pass away? What happens to that money?
So the first thing that happens is end of life expenses are paid first. So all of any outstanding bills, all of your funeral expenses, all of your end of life expenses are paid first, okay? It is set up to where Medicaid can come back if you're receiving Medicaid, okay? Medicaid can come back and say, hey, while this account was open, only while the account was open, the funds that we were giving you, we can come back and take back minus any premiums paid in. Okay, so We don't know if that's going to happen, but they can do that.
They can do that.
They can do that. And then anything left over would go to the person's estate.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. I think some people have a little bit of fear in there that they wouldn't want that to happen, but it makes sense financially. If the government has been giving you these benefits, you know, they could give those benefits to somebody else, and they're kind of recuperating that and putting that back into the community.
Correct.
So, okay. If I was to start an Enable savings plan today, and I wanted to do that, how would I go about doing that?
So you can't go into a physical building and do that, okay? So you can do it one of two ways. You're either going to call an 800 number and someone can help you do it, and I can give the 800 number, and I'm not good at memorizing numbers, so I'm going to read this out. But you can either call 1-866-833-7949, and someone will be glad to help you do that. Or you can log on to EnableAL.com, and it's very easy. Our website is ADA compliant. I think it is fabulous the way it's laid out. You can walk it through. You can also call our office, ask for Anita, and I'll help you with any questions, but it's very easy to open it up.
And I imagine when people first call, it's kind of an overview, an introduction, half hour, 45-minute conversation, a lot of questions there. And then and you're really helping them decide what kind of investments they're going to be doing, what kind of accounts they're going to be opening up, and that's on an individual basis. And then once they say, okay, this is what I want, then do they start transferring money in, or how would somebody put money into that account?
So they can either mail a check. If it's paper, of course, they're going to have to mail it in, or they can electronically transfer it in. They can set up automatic investments from their current account. And the neat thing about this account is you can start it with as little as $50. If you set it up where you're going to do electronically, you can deduct or reduce that amount to $25. So it's so easy to get it started, as little as $25 if you do electronic, monthly.
And speaking of easy, we're going to talk about this today on this telecast, but I would say after this, if you've got an interest in it, go to our website, because it is all the information you need is going to be right there. And so if you've got questions, you can just go back through the screens and see what it is. And if there's anything else that you need, call us. And that's one of the things that we have learned about this, is that it is complex, because you've got, our account is not complex, but the issues associated with the account and how it impacts what you're already doing can be complex. And the people who are answering that phone know that. And they take special care to fully discuss, answer all questions, so that what we found is that so we have the 529 account for the college savings, is that somebody calls in and the average length of the call is relatively short. It's not the case for the Enable account because of the complexity.
Yeah.
And we are more than willing to talk as long as it takes for people to understand what is happening. So don't feel rushed. Don't be afraid to call. We know what we need to do, and we are willing to do it.
So if kind of lost my train of thought there, but like for the college saving, or if somebody calls in, who they're speaking with has had some experience in the disability community.
Absolutely.
You know where you're coming from. And I think that's very important. I think a lot of times you get like that college savings where it's like, yeah, we know where you're going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But on the disability side, it's very individualized. And so whoever you're talking with is going to be familiar with what you're talking about.
Correct.
There's no question about that. We learned that a long time ago. Let me give you a little background on this, is that we're not involved just with Alabama. I've been fortunate enough to be the chairman of the College Savings Plan Network, which is a national organization that's connected to the National Association of State Treasurers. So I was the chair of the college program when this was passed. And we all got together and said, this is so much like what we're doing for college, we need to take up the mantle and guide this thing through and help structure it. So that's what we did beginning in 2015. So in the summer of 2015, all of us met in Chicago. We sat down and we talked about all of these issues. about how should this work, how should it be structured, who should be doing it, what are the special needs of the people who are going to be looking for these accounts, and we went through the whole process. So we did research in 2015. In 2016, some of the states started to design their programs, and as they began the design, there were about 3 or 4 that sort of led the charge in developing these programs. And as they got into it, they said, here's what we've learned. You need to know this. And you need to know that it's a huge community, but it's fractured. It's a huge community, and because of the fracture, you're going to have a more difficult time getting the word out, getting the word in, and then responding to it. So all of that has been taken into account. We launched in February of 2017, so we've been at it for a relatively short period of time, but we were one of the first ones to open it up, and we've learned a ton. And we understand that there are special needs out there, and we address those.
And you said there's 4 states that started off kind of piloting the program. Where is it at now?
Well, there were 4 core ones that did that, and right now there are 40 states and the District of Columbia that offer a program.
I didn't know it was that high.
Yes.
40 states, that's since 2014, in the inception there. That's
but
taken off.
But the inception is just the starting date. The thing really didn't get started until the summer of 16. So if you look at it, it's a little over, 2.5 years?
Right.
In 2.5 years, you've got 40.
Right.
And, I would expect that there will be more. The thing about it is that there's some states who probably will not open an account. Well, because there's no state tax advantage. And also, the size of this program, we believe, is going to be a lot smaller than college savings. Because you can't save as much. It is specialized. And so I think those are the factors that would keep it relatively small. So, and also whenever you do something like this, it starts out slowly and then starts to build up. So, and we've seen that happen, and it has started slowly, but it's starting to pick up.
Yeah. And when the states, kind of say, hey, this is what we tried, this is what I would recommend you guys try, there's still a disconnect there too, because the state gets to decide what waivers to support. So each disability community in the state is different, and the services that are provided to them are different. So it goes all the way down to each case is different.
It is true.
State to person to person.
Yes.
So even though Washington might be saying, hey, we tried this really worked for us, it may be different here in Alabama because those services don't exist for, or they're worded differently or different waivers, something like that. So,
that is true.
very cool. As a fund, overall fund for the Enable Savings, that money is invested in resources and then a return is given back to the fund. What types of resources or what types of things is that invested in?
The investments have been designed so that they're relatively simple and they are low cost. All of our investments that are outside of the bank deposits are with Vanguard. And of course, Vanguard is one of the premier mutual fund companies in the country. And we've done business with them before, and that's how we do it. So we indicated earlier that there were 3 categories for making investments that include stocks and bonds. Mm-hmm. And they are conservative, moderate, and then growth. And how those are distinguished is that conservative has more bonds in it than stocks. Mm-hmm. And then as it becomes moderate, there's more stock, less bonds, and then the growth is more stock than bonds. So you have potential for more growth, but it reduces the amount that you're going to have on interest income. So you can track the performance of your accounts, and of course the growth in those funds is tax free.
So the investments are through Vanguard then, so they
Yes.
do a majority of the investing. Are
That's
they
right.
the ones that send you a monthly report, or is that the Enable Savings Plan, or do you just log on to their website? So do you, by having an Enable Savings Plan, do you automatically have a Vanguard account?
If you choose the,
Yeah, the administration is done through the bank. right?
Okay.
And so you have an account with the administrator, and the administrator is investing in those funds. So, and the funds are basically index funds, so that you're buying the representative part of the stock market or the bond market, and that's how that works.
Okay. Very good. So it's not like investing in one stock and
Oh, no.
that thing goes down. It's like,
Not at all, not at all. Yeah, diversity and safety is an important part of this.
okay. So kind of summarizing, if you were to start today, you would call the number, you would visit EnableAL.com. You would speak to somebody on the phone that's very aware of the disability community here in Alabama. They have experience. They can walk you through the entire process.
Right.
During that conversation, you're going to be talking about what type of account is best for you and your needs, whether that's just the checking or the fund as well, the investment fund. And then included in that is whether you want to be more conservative, moderate, or what was the third one there?
Growth.
Right.
Growth.
Yeah.
With that fund. Then once you've decided what type of fund and account you want, you can start transferring money in there online or by sending in a check. And that check is sent to the bank in Nebraska.
It's First National Bank of Omaha.
Okay, so the check will be sent to the First National Bank of Omaha, or you can always transfer from Wells Fargo or Service First into that bank. You can also take it out if you have monthly expenses coming out. Daily living.
We offer debit cards, check cards, or checks. So there's multiple ways to get the money out. Very easy. Transfer it online, so very easy to get it out.
Okay, perfect. And if I was someone that was looking to set up an Enable account and I was receiving services such as SSI, I would do everything in one. It wouldn't be like I had separate checking account in Wells Fargo and an Enable Savings Plan. I'd have my checking account with the First Bank of Omaha and just do the Enable Savings Plan. That way it's easy to get in and out of, transfer money around there.
Right.
So. Okay, we are going to call a lady, a good friend of mine.
Of ours.
Of ours. We've all met her and spent time with her, and she is actually the first person. Well, you know what? Let me get her on the phone.
Okay,
Set
good.
this up. Just 1 second.
So is there anything else we need to be talking about while you're doing that?
Now, if you guys, we're just chit-chatting here, kind of having some
Okay.
conversation.
I think I've thought of two things that we didn't go over. So there is a $45 annual fee for the account, which I think is relatively low. And what they do is they split that up quarterly. So they just deduct it out of the account, so it's $11.25 a quarter. And then the other thing that
Annual contributions.
Yep, the 15,000. So
Yeah.
the maximum amount you can put into the account per year is 15,000, and that is linked to the gift tax exclusion. So last year it's 14,000. This year it's 15,000. So that can fluctuate. But right now, this year it's 15,000. So you can't put. That's from all contributors. So
Okay.
yeah,
I was gonna say,
if I'm
so-
contributing for someone and they're putting in money for themselves, it's by everyone only 15,000.
Why is that? That's just because the gift tax?
Tax law. Yeah.
Well, you can put more, but it would be taxed? Or you
No,
can't?
no, you can't put it, you can't put
They
more
will
in.
halt. They'll halt it.
Yeah.
We have to halt it once you reach that amount.
And the firms, the banks, the people who are doing the administration have got programs in place that identify that and will not accept.
So you need to start early. This isn't something that you can just turn around in one day and put $100,000 in there.
Right.
Oh, no,
This
that's
is
right.
something that you need to plan for. And
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to get to 100,000 for a while,
Right.
because 100,000 is going to represent the total of your contributions, less any withdrawals, plus the growth that you have. So it could take a while to get to $100,000.
And if you're not receiving SSI benefits, you can actually have up to $400,000 in the account.
really?
Yes. So the 100,000 is if you're Social Security benefits, because you don't want to have those suspended. But if you're not receiving those, and you just have the doctor's certificate, you can have up to 400,000. Now, that would take longer at 15,000 a pop. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what happens if you're at 400,000 and you go on Social Security? Do you automatically have to take off 300 of that?
You know, that's a very good question, and we haven't had to deal with that
Yeah.
because
Because
it takes a while.
highly unlikely to do that. That's years away.
Yeah.
But if you sort of think it through logically, and of course, sometimes logic doesn't matter in these circumstances, is that if you did go on a program, you would be governed by the rules of that program, and that program says it's 100,000 at this point. So there's an issue there with what do I do with that 300,000 in resources? Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool. All right, let's call our friend here. And we're going to put her on speaker. Up to the speaker.
Hello?
Hello, Stephanie.
Yes.
I am here with Alabama State Treasurer Young Boozer and Anita Kelley,
Yes.
the Director of Enable
Yes.
Savings Plan. How are you doing today?
Good.
I'll let everyone say
Okay. Hey, hey, Stephanie. This is Young.
Hello.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hello, how are you?
We're doing great. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you too.
We were just talking about the Enable Savings Plan, and you were the first person in the state of Alabama to open up the Enable Savings Plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. How did that go?
It went perfect. I don't have to worry about, trying to save and getting penalized anymore. We just put the money in and it stays there till I have to pull it out.
Now, you were saying before you were stuck at the $2,000. You couldn't have any more savings in there, but why were there some other things that you needed additional money for?
Well, I'm trying to train a golden doodle right now that is my prospective service dog, and I use some of the money to help train with him, and I use some of the money for my health care and stuff like that. So, yeah, it helps where it doesn't penalize me for having to do something and pull money out where Social Security would penalize me.
Yeah, can I jump in here and kind of give you my perspective of Stephanie's situation as we knew it back then? Stephanie had a service dog by the name of Astro, which I think is the greatest name you can have for a dog. I think that's great. And Astro was approaching retirement, and she needed to make arrangements for another service dog. And we were talking earlier about the limits on this is that for $2,000, and I've come to learn that service dogs are in the range of $15,000, and it made it impossible, totally impossible for her to be able to get a new dog. And this opens up a new world for her. Well, you know what it does? It keeps her world moving forward, which is exactly what you want to try to do. And so as we learned about the ABLE account and what it can do, I think this is a sort of a classic example of what an incredible benefit this can be to individuals. And we heard the story about Stephanie. We met Stephanie, we met Astro, and we could not be more pleased to have her be a part of the program, but more pleased for her to be the first person. I mean, it was awesome.
And Stephanie, do you have a new dog?
I have a new dog that we're trying to train now. He's about 21 months and still a lot of puppy, so we're still trying to train him, but I don't know if he's going to work out, but I'm hoping.
Keep faith there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more time with some dogs.
Yeah, we're hoping too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions for Stephanie? Or Stephanie, is there anything else you'd like to say about the Enable Savings Plan?
Like I said, it is just helped me tremendously, and I think it would help any other person with a disability. Don't worry about not worry about where the money's coming from or where the money is going, because you're not limited to anything.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions?
You're welcome.
All right, Stephanie, it was good to hear from you, and I'll give you a call on the way home just to see how everything else is going.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Stephanie, it's great to hear you.
Thank you, Anita, and thank you, Young.
You
I
are,
have appreciated working with you guys, and I still hope to. And I hate your leaving so soon.
well, the Constitution says it's time for me to move on. But I will tell you this, is that my time here has been wonderful, and maybe,
Yes.
maybe the best part of it was the Able account and dealing with you.
Well,
So thank you.
I appreciate it. So,
You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
All right, Stephanie. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's special.
So this is a good example of, it is the example. When we got into this, we said, we have the Able account, we're gonna set up an account here at the state. We looked at other people, how they were gonna do it. And, I'm kind of I'm a problem solver, fixer. And I said, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do. This is how you structure it. This is what it'll have and all of this. And it was more or less, I got a project, or we have a project, and we need to design a financial service and put it out there. Well, what happened is that suddenly realized that, yes, that's true. There is a tool, but we got a whole bunch of people who need that tool and need it for all kinds of reasons. And instead of it just being a project of building a financial service, it became a mission. And it became a mission to help people like Stephanie and everybody else out there. And so I appreciate your coming down today and talking to us, because we need to get the word out.
I appreciate you guys doing this. I think what you guys are doing, what you stand for in the community is awesome. You're leading the way there. So I hope to get, I'm just a microphone. I hope to get your words out to the community.
And we appreciate that. It needs to get out there. Yeah.
I agree.
And I would like to say one thing before, anybody listening, if they have an event or know someone that they would like us to come speak at, or, please call us. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get this word out. So we go to schools, we go to churches, we go to disability events, we go to any place that will let us come talk. And if it's 2 people, that's 2 more people that know about it than they did yesterday. So I've gone and spoken to groups that are as small as 2 and as groups that are as large as 50, or 100. So nothing's too small or too big. So please. The other thing I would say is please like us on Facebook, because we have some great articles. We try to do something at least every other day, and you would just look us up under Enable Savings Plan Alabama. Make sure you put Alabama after that, and anytime you see something you like, please share it, because you never know, out of all the friends you have, what article it might touch somebody. They then will like us and share it, and that's another way that's going to get the word out to everybody. So, because you'll never see a commercial about this, So this is the only way, through social media and just letting us come out and talk about it.
And we need the feedback to be able to also improve the product going forward. Make sure that we got the right features that meet the needs of the people that we're serving.
Now, if anybody currently has an Enable Savings Plan, how would they give you feedback? Do they go to the website? Is there a room there for feedback, or would they call in?
There is, it does say that to call back for comments. I think there is a section for comments, but please, I would just rather them either call the treasurer or call me and give us, because we're gonna take action on it.
Yep. Ooh.
Yeah.
Very good. A lot of people don't have their door open like that, so once again, applaud you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Being very connected to.
That's the way we work.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you both kind of a summarization. What would you like to say as we kind of end here? If there is a person with a disability or their family members watching right now, what would you like to say to them?
Well, I'd repeat what you just said, is that the door is open, the lines of communication are open, and we want to hear from you, and we want to serve you. We have a great product. We think it's going to make a difference in their lives, the financial lives, and we want to help. So call us, contact us.
I would agree. 2 or 3 years ago, I was the director of college savings, and I was told I was going to get a new product, in my division, and I will tell you, it has been that and so much more. At first it was, I'm going to have new responsibilities, but the doors that it has opened and the people that I have met have really, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, been a blessing, and it has become my most favorite part of my job. It's my favorite division of my job. So I enjoy going out and meeting people and hearing their stories and hearing how this product helps and affects people. So please just give us a call and let us see how we can help you.
And we thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Good.
Good to be in the Capitol building. Take my picture of yourself.
We'll do that.
Okay, so for the community here, thank you for being with us today. I will edit this video down so you guys can see different clips of it, and I will put all of the links that we've talked about today so they're easily clickable. If you take one thing away from today, from my perspective, it would be if you have a disability or know someone with a disability and you're looking for some answers in finances, in assets in that location, call. The door is always open. You heard it right here. The phone is always on. I've just spent the morning with 2 very great people that are doing world-changing stuff for the disability community. So do not hesitate to get in contact with them. At this point, I am going to end our show today, and I will see everybody next week for our next live session.